I'm Jeff Mackey, and this is my wife Florence, and we've been at St. Albans and in Hickory and married for over 50 years. Now, those of you watching on your iPhones or your tablets or your computers, don't adjust the volume. I didn't say 15, I said 50. So during that period of time, we've come to love St. Albans, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story at St. Albans, and then Florence will talk a little bit about hers. I was raised a Methodist, but when we moved to Hickory after Florence's dad, who was an Episcopal priest, minister, married us, we found St. Albans. And there was a young priest there named Randy Farabee. Turned out he and I were just a few days apart in age. And so we became fast friends, and he would show up on my doorstep about 2 or 3 times a week for a glass of wine. And he started asking me uncomfortable questions like, how is your soul? Stuff that people had never asked me before. And after a while he said, you know, I think I would like you to be a lay reader. And I said, well, what's a lay reader? And he said, well, I'll tell you about that. And a little bit later he said, I'd like you to be a warden. And I said, well, what's a warden? And he said, well, I'll tell you about that. And then he said, I'd like you to join Theological Education by Extension, which is what's called EFM now. And it turned out that when I finished that course, B.J. Houck and I were the first 2 in the diocese to graduate with the EFM degree. So then he asked me to be on the executive committee of the diocese because we needed to try to get some money for the building of the parish hall. And I said, I don't know much about that. He says, well, I'll tell you all about that. And time passed on, and he said, I'd like you to head up a committee to look for my replacement. And I said, okay, I don't know much about that. He says, well, I'll tell you all about that too. So as we spent all these years at St. Albans, this was sort of my journey of faith. And it really has been a wonderful trip. And there's a lot of wonderful things at St. Albans that have happened to us. But that's sort of my trip in a nutshell.
Okay. My faith journey. I'm Florence Mackey, and yes, 50 years. Never thought I'd be sitting here like this, but this is a joy to say some of these things to you folks out there. I'm a cradle Episcopalian. That means that your family, you were raised an Episcopalian. My father was Episcopal minister. He did not like the word priest because he liked ministering to people. And my mother was also, even though she was independently an Episcopalian when she met him. And then they married, and I go back generations of being Episcopalian. Generations, everybody was. But anyway, long story short, I've probably been to every church camp in the 3 states we've lived in because it was free and wonderful. My father lived in we were from North Carolina, but North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia have been camps, all of those, even in Virginia, and ended up going to a girls' boarding school in Virginia, which was a very good thing for me. Outside of Jeff, that was the next best thing that ever happened to me to straighten me out a little bit so I'd cooperate more. Didn't do bad things, I just wasn't cooperating. But anyway, and then I even went to a college in Raleigh, St. Mary's College in Raleigh and on to Chapel Hill, but those were all Episcopal institutions. So I have been thumped with the Book of Common Prayer for sure. I have one of my grandmothers used to even sweep out the church on Sunday morning in eastern North Carolina. When we came here though, being Episcopalian wasn't as important to me as us going to a church we both felt comfortable in, whether it was Methodist or Episcopalian or whatever. And we went and visited St. Luke's and loved it, really liked it, but there was a draw here. They needed us here. They needed us with a paintbrush, and somebody tried to have me help them wallpaper the foyer, which is comical out here, but you were needed. And we went and got stained glass windows from someplace else to put in the barn, and we felt very needed. So this is where we decided to stay, and I was thrilled that we would become Episcopalians here, or Jeff would. And we had children raised here. There were, one was married here, one was married by Trigby in Durham, and our children were baptized and confirmed here, and our son was real involved in happening and all that stuff. On with everything else. I have always felt like this was such a good church family. It's not just a church, it's a family of Christians that are together. And we take care of each other. And we also take care of people that we don't even know, and I love that part of it, the outreach of it. Helping people that we're not even around or are not friends or not people that go here. One last thing to kind of say here is that I took EFM too, and served with acolytes, and I just really enjoyed that, because I would never know those young people at the age I am if I had not offered to do that. And not even St. Krenzel called me by my first name the other day, and I felt like I'd really made it. But anyway, there's a couple of things that I want to wind up with, and one is about giving. And Jeff will say some more about giving too, but if you give it, this was in our church service last week, if you give in abundance with your heart, there is always enough. I don't think we ever felt like that was true when we were young and struggling, but it became true. It became true. When you kind of pushed yourself, there was always enough. One last thing, there is one hope in God's call to us, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all. And that's in the prayer book, and I love that phrase.
I think the point of our sharing our stories was to sort of let you know what St. Albans means to us and has meant to us over the years. And as we know, to keep St. Albans going, and we want this to be here for you, whether you've been here for 2 years or 20 years. And to do that, it takes money. And to pay the light bill, to pay for these beautiful grounds, to pay for our great staff, and for Cammie and for Trigby. So we hope that you will consider prayerfully setting aside a little bit each week or a little bit each month to give as a pledge for Pledge Sunday. And if you're not able to tithe, that's okay. We weren't able to tithe when we started. We tried to work towards that as a goal. So hopefully you'll do that, and we look forward to seeing you at the In Gathering on November the 19th.
That's it? That was awesome. Do you know that some of the Acolyte kids call you Flo Mac?
I don't mind.
Okay. Do other people call you that?
Spit your gum out.